Hello, everyone. How's it going? My name is Jared, and today here on Real Building Blocks, our sidebar is about having integrity in your business and not lying about your services. So, today's situation comes in from a veteran that posted about their credit card processing services in a veteran group, and they said something with that really crossed the line, and uh, basically I just had to deal with the situation and say something about it. So let me give you the context. The entire credit card processing industry, all merchant processing, is a pyramid architecturally. It's structured as a pyramid on purpose. That doesn't make it a pyramid scheme, but the architecture of it is like a pyramid. So at the top, you have all of your credit card companies like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, etc. All of these companies, whenever you use a card, all of these companies get paid every time. So then the next level, there's at least two levels, or there's at least 2 to 3 levels in every transaction. So the first level is always the credit card processing company. The next level below them is going to be whoever is authorized by the credit card companies directly. And so that could be someone like a bank could do that. That could be like Stripe or PayPal. That could be Square is another one. Authorized.net is another one, those online processing capabilities. And then the banks typically play a big role in that as well. So whenever someone tells you that they're a credit card processing company, they're a merchant processor, you always have to throw up some red flags right out the gate, because you need to figure out who do they work for, who are they affiliated under, right? It's kind of like an insurance company. Just because your neighbor does insurance doesn't mean he can get you all insurances. It just means that he has to work with existing insurance providers to be able to get you insurance. It's the same thing with credit card processing. In order to actually give them the ability to process the transactions, there's other people in play. And so, whenever, well, a lot of people, they try to sell merchant processing, and they don't exactly understand what they're selling, or they try to spin it so it sounds nice. And I'm all for like spinning things, framing things differently to leverage in your marketing. We do that sometimes, but it's also very specific things. Um, that's part of marketing. You're not going to get away from that. But to completely just lie about your services is a whole other thing, especially when it's impossible to do what they claim that you can do. So, in a normal scenario, I was a merchant processor for a time, and so one of the companies that I was working with was Elevon, and so we had Elevon, and then above Elevon was a bank, and then above banks were the card companies. So there was 3 levels above me, and that is typically how most small business merchant processors are. There's typically 3 people above you that get paid before you get paid. And the reason why it's typically that level is because you have to prove yourself before you can work directly with the bank. And you have to prove yourself even more before you can go directly to the cards. Like, if I'm starting today doing merchant processing, I can't go to the very top and say, hey, Visa, I want to work directly with you. It's not going to happen. They got to have a reason to work with you. And that's going to come in the form of having a large client base with a large amount of billing. So it is virtually guaranteed that no small business merchant processor is going to be cutting out any fees. When they tell you they can cut your fees, they can't really do that much for you in a lot of situations because Visa has to get paid, because the banks have to get paid, because they're the organization that they're working with under the bank, that third level down, those guys got to get paid too. So there's a lot of people out there trying to spin it. And to be fair, you can make a lot of money with merchant processing, but you also have to be on the grind 24/7 because you have to constantly be looking for new clients. It's it's a thing. And the reason why I'm not doing it anymore is because every time I went to go spend money, I would just see dollar signs of how much money I was losing by not signing that client. And it kind of drives you crazy sometimes if you let it. And it did, for me at least. So the claim that this guy made was that he said, I can get rid of all of your merchant processing fees. Well, unless you have created a company on the same level as Visa and you are a new card provider in the market, then no, you can't. That is impossible. So I started probing and asking questions, trying to figure out what he's talking about, because clearly either he doesn't understand what he's talking about or he's just straight up lying. So uh, I started to try to figure out what is going on here, because you cannot get rid of merchant processing fees. It is virtually impossible. Someone has to pay money every time a card is swiped. That is the entire industry's architecture. Someone's getting paid. So when this guy said that, I knew for a fact that it was a lie. And I called him out on it. And typically when that happens, people will kind of bow down, be like, oh yeah, you're right, I misspoke. It's actually supposed to be this. And that's kind of what I was expecting to happen. But he doubled down. So then he started going into what he's actually talking about. And what he's talking about is not even close to merchant processing. Excuse me. What he's talking about is something called cash discount, which, if you've ever driven by a gas station and you see a price listed for the gas, and then under that it says credit, and then the price changes to something either more expensive or less expensive, and then it says cash, that's what this is. So there's two flip sides of this. There's surcharge, and then there's cash discount. So a surcharge would be basically, let's say the price is $10, and the expectation is that you're going to pay in cash. So if you come over and try to pay with a card, a surcharge is charging more. The flip side of that is, if the price is $10, by paying cash, it'll be $9. And so that is what this guy's talking about. He's talking about lowering your merchant processing fees using cash discount, which gives people a discount. It kind of entices them to pay in cash. But in reality, we're in 2024, and most people don't even carry cash. So that's not even a real option in a lot of ways. I haven't even seen. I've been to the ATM to pay one person in the past 10 plus years. I don't go to the ATM to regularly pull out cash or none of that shit. I just use a card. That's the way it is. Most people kind of operate the same. So the cash discount is to entice people to pay in cash to pay less for their product or service. So a merchant processor who charges fees that are based on a credit card transaction are not going to charge fees for a cash transaction. That is pretty much common sense. So it would be impossible for you to state and claim publicly that you're getting rid of all transaction fees, all merchant processing fees, because you're not processing a cash transaction. That is not the same thing. And this guy didn't see it that way. I don't know why you can't understand that. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science, right? if you're not swiping a card, you're not going to pay a transaction fee to Visa, right? That makes so much sense, and that's the way that it is. But this guy just seemed to double down on it, and I didn't understand why. He got really butthurt about it. Thought I was attacking him when I was trying to get him to realize that he was lying, and he didn't. So yeah, that's why I'm here now, telling the whole world about it. So realistically, though, I would not. I'm not going to tell you guys his name. I could, but I'm not going to, because that's a level of fucked up that some people don't deserve. So even though he probably does deserve it, I'm not going to put it out there. What I will say is this: you should not be lying about your services. There is a level of dishonesty tied into marketing, and that's going to happen. That is definitely going to be out there, right? But just straight up lying, just so you can get the sell, is not how things should be. Because in marketing, you're going to have to frame things a certain way. You're going to have to spin it a little bit sometimes to try to frame it correctly so that it sounds the way you want it to sound without really lying completely. And there's a book out there called "All Marketers Are Liars," and that's what that's about. It's about spinning something a little bit, kind of reframing it to tell the story under a different limelight. Paint the narrative a little bit differently without complete fabrication. And that's something that people understand. But at the same time, sometimes you go too far with that shit and you get called out for it. Especially in our veteran communities that we're part of, yeah, you're going to get called out real quick. And I'm at a point in life where I'm trying to bring more people together, and I'm trying to bring people. I want to actually get back into doing episodes and bringing people on the podcast and whatnot. And if somebody said that shit here on the podcast, I would blow them the fuck up. I would not let that fly. I wouldn't let it slide at all. I would tell them exactly what is going on. I would tell them exactly how what they said is wrong, and I would not let that slide one bit. And I'm even getting ready to start up another podcast for Veteran Database, and that one's going to have the same premise. If you try to come on there and lie and say some shit that's not true, you're going to get checked, that's for sure. So that's pretty much all that I had for this episode, this sidebar. Just don't just straight up lie about what you do and how it benefits people and stuff like that, right? There's a time and a place to frame things in a way that will support your marketing, and that's the right way to do it. But just straight up lying is not. As veterans, we have all been, or we should have all been, deeply ingrained with a code of ethics and morality and standards. And so we try to live by those. And that should be trickling into your business as well. So, yeah. Have a little integrity. And, don't go lying. That's pretty much it for this one here. I did want to make a quick note. On the last episode, I talked some shit about Kicksite, and at the time, all of that was true. But a little update: I do have access to the client's website now, so all good. It's not good because they still built it in a stupid way, but at least I have admin access, so I can see all of that. So that's a plus. All right, guys. Until next time, keep building your business one block at a time. Take it easy.